Well, hi once again. You are watching IrishRacing.com and you are watching Cheltenham Eyecatchers. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be delving into some of the specials markets for the upcoming Cheltenham Festival, looking at the top trainer and jockey options outside of Misters Mullins and Townsend. Of course, we're going to also be looking at the Presbury Cup and is there possible GB revival? Can Nicky Henderson get his string there in working order? And if so, can they really serve it up to some of the top Irish contingent? Later on the show, we're going to be going through the Gold Cup, or the potential Gold Cup runners one by one, and then rounding things off with now day 3, the Thursday handicaps, where Don will, he's had his eye on a couple of selections on that day. So we will come to those in due course. I mentioned Donn McClean back in the hot seat as ever. Great to have you then, Don. As I said, the last few years, it's just been Irish domination pretty much, hasn't it? To put it bluntly. Now, look, the Presbury Cup itself, Ireland 1-9, GB 8-1. I'm not sure that many punters are that bothered by it, in truth. I think as long as the horse wins you've backed, you don't really care where it's trained. But for a good bit of fun and the wider point, last year was 18-9 to Ireland. And of course, a lot of the well-touted British horses, mainly those in the Seven Barrows yard, likes of John Bon, etc., Sergino, did not make the gig. There's an air of optimism here, Don. The daffodils are coming out, the sun's out, and perhaps it could be a little bit closer. Will it be the Willie Mullins, Gordon Elliott whitewash we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, it's really interesting, Ed. As you say, the Nicky Henderson yard didn't have any winners last year, which was nearly unheard of in recent times. And even so, British trainers collectively had 9 winners for the 27 races. Remember, there was no cross-country chase last year. Since they added the Mares Novices Hurdle back in 2016, there have been at least as many Irish-trained winners as British-trained winners at the Cheltenham Festival. And, I'm old enough to remember, Ed, going back to the late 80s when there were none. Galmoy flew the flag on his own for a couple of years. And then 1989, I think it was, there were no Irish trained winners. So it's, things have changed since then. Things will change again. And I think it's important. People say, it doesn't matter once you've backed the winner, but it is a thing. Like St. Vincent O'Brien started bringing his horses over to Cheltenham.
Yeah.
The Irish English, the Irish element in Cheltenham, it's massive. And the kind of, I think it's a factor for sure. But as you say, I think it's more kind of out of interest more than anything else. But it's good to see the horses who've been running in Ireland all season going to Cheltenham. And I suppose from an Irish racing fans perspective, you like to see them doing well whenever they go to Cheltenham. So that's kind of where we're coming from. Where I'm coming from anyway. You like to see them running well. You like to see Irish trainers and Irish jockeys and Irish owners doing well. So it is good. But look, it's a great. In order for Cheltenham to work like that, you need the Irish team to be strong. But for it to work as well, you need the British team to be strong. And the competition. That's the key point for me. That's what makes it of great interest is the competition between the top Irish trained National Hunt horses and the top British trained National Hunt horses.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd still say the overwhelming edge looks to be in the Emerald Isle in regards to the Grade 1s, the handicaps. Now, there's been lots of changes in regards to qualification criteria for the festival in the handicaps. In regards to you can't have a statesman or an au petit soin kind of dotting up here and getting the job done, masquerading, if you like, with a stone in hand, etc. I was looking at the Irish marks relative to the marks given for Cheltenham. There's quite a lot of uplift. There seems to be a few Irish trainers grumbling that perhaps they think that they've got £3 or £4 too many, even allowing for the fact they knew they were going to get a rise. Is it essentially the handicaps where the home team are going to have to really, kind of thrive? Obviously, the Ultima, for example, being a race where in the last 20 years that has been farmed by these shores.
Yeah, I think there've only been 2 Irish trained winners of the Ultima ever. That was You Never Walk Alone in 2003 and Doon in 2006. And that's going back to the 1940s, I think. Yeah. So it's not a race in which the Irish trainers do particularly well. But yeah, look, the fact that there were more handicaps this year than there were last year. There were 9 handicaps last year. The split in them was 4 or 5. There are 12 handicaps this season, and yeah, look, it's we know now that there's an inflation in an Irish horses mark coming over to Britain, and that argument has been well played out. Some horses are more harshly treated than others, and we'll come along to some of them now in a second. I suppose from the perspective of the handicaps, it is a little bit of an anomaly that if the race was run in Ireland, then horses would be meeting on different terms compared to the race being run in Britain, and that's just a difference of opinion between the British handicappers and the Irish handicappers. But look, it's a thread that's going to run through the whole meeting: the Irish versus British. I did a kind of a back of a paper napkin and analysis earlier on each of the races as to how they might go, and like taking the market as a guide. So trying to take subjectivity out of it, and just on prices of horses along the way. Like for example, on the Tuesday, the Supreme Novices Hurdle, Irish horses obviously dominate the Supreme Novices Hurdle market with Cup de Board and Salvatore Mundi and Romeo Coolio work ahead, William Money. They dominate the market. So it's probable that an Irish trained horse is going to win the Supreme Novices Hurdle. In fact, if an Irish trained horse doesn't win the Supreme Novices Hurdle, that could have reverberations all the way through the week. In the Arkle, Majba is an odds-on shot, so it's more likely that he will win than that he will lose, according to the market. You've also got Only by Night, maybe Touch Me Not in there as well. You've got Loda Sood heading up the British team, but again, it's more likely that an Irish trained horse than a British trained horse will win the Arkle. The Mare's Hurdle as well. Brighter days ahead, depending on where she goes. She'll be if she goes for the Mare's Hurdle, she'll be long odds on. If she doesn't, you've got Jay de Grugy and July Flower in there. Maybe Cargesi, maybe Woodhu will be supplemented. Maybe Joyos will be supplemented for the British team. You've got Take No Chances in there. But again, it's more likely that an Irish trained horse will win the Mare's Hurdle. By contrast, Constitution Hill is an odds-on shot for the Champion Hurdle. So it's more likely that a British trained horse will win the Champion Hurdle than an Irish trained horse. So that's kind of the theme with which I went through all 28 races. So by the end of day one, it's looking like, according to the market, again, 4 Irish trained winners and either 2 or 3 British trained winners. There's a French possibility in there as well, Stencil for an Old George and Amanda Zetterholm in the Fred Winter Hurdle. And how many winners are the French going to have? They had one throughout the meeting, and there's an argument for saying that the French team this year, it could be a good year for them. You've got Jet Blues in there for David Cotin, probably in the Albert Bartlett Hurdle. Gold Tweet has options in the Ultima, the Coral Cup, the Stairs Hurdle. Ile Francais, obviously, in a Champion Chase or a Ryanair Chase. So there might be a French winner or two along the way, and that, if you're betting on the tie in the Presbury Cup, that could scupper that one. But just quickly on to, I won't delay too long on this. So quickly on to Wednesday. I have that Wednesday down as 4-3 to Ireland, 4 Irish trained winners, 3 British trained winners. Thursday then 5-2 to Ireland, and Friday 6-1. And this is according to the market and not according to me. Like for example, I have the Triumph Hurdle down as a British win, because the market says that Le Lamban East India Dock they're more likely than not to, and Palladium in there as well, to register a success for British trained horses. I do think Hello Neighbour's overpriced in that, but again, I'm taking the market as a guide and not my own subjectivity. So by the end of the week, what I have is 19 Irish, 8 British, 1 French. Now that may be completely off the mark, and if there'll be obviously variations on the daily score throughout the week. But as far as I can tell, that's a kind of a broad indicator, according to the market, of how it might pan out. Now that said, obviously, horses will underperform and horses will overperform. But I kind of think 8, 9, 10 British trained winners, as it has been 9, 10 for the last 3 years. Actually, I think British trained winners, and I think it's going to pan out around about that mark again.
Yeah, exactly. I got it kind of 18-10, that kind of ballpark figure there. As you say, a lot might not have changed. You see what I'm saying, going further forward. But anyway, it's a good bit of fun. But some obviously some excellent Irish horses coming over here. And I suppose, again, the other point, we won't go off on a huge tangent today, Don, but if you take Nicky Henderson and to an extent, Dan Skelton out of it, there is a lack of strength of depth with the Paul Nicholls team, of course, which has been well documented. And then you used to look to likes of perhaps like your Alan Kings Venetia Williams to pop up in some of the handicaps, and they don't seem to have much ammo. I think it's fair to say coming into this, so it is kind of it basically is. It looks like Henderson and Skelton versus Ireland here, but look, it's going to be good fun, as you say. We'll. What was your final prediction, Don? Just to confirm.
Yeah, 19-8-1 or
19.
or 19-9. Depending on how you view the French challenge. So
yeah, okay. I've gone 18-10. We'll have a diet lemonade over it. That'll be the that'll be the rule. Right. Okay. I mentioned Nicky Henderson here. Back with what looks like touchwood and a formidable string, especially in the grade ones. We were looking at the specials markets now. As things stand, you're talking around 1-5. Willie Mullins to be top trainer, but Nicky Henderson is 6-4 without. Gordon Elliott 5-2, Dan Skelton 13-2, Gavin Cromwell 15-2, Tens Bar. I mean, have you spotted anything in either the trainer or the jockey markets for that fact, Don, where you've got Paul Townend at 2-5, Mark Walsh is 2-1 without Paul Townend. I should just, for information purposes, point that out as well. Is there anything in the sub markets that's taking your fancy?
Yeah, not really, Ed. I think that the market seems to be about right. I'd say Gordon Elliott might be a wee bit underpriced, actually. Sorry, overpriced, a little bit underrated in the overall market. Like Gordon Elliott he's got a very strong team going over, both numerically and in terms of quality as well. So I think I'm a little bit surprised that he's not second favorite or he's not favorite in the without Willie Mullins market. But look, that said, as you said, Nicky Henderson has a really strong team going, as opposed to last year. He had no winners last year, one winner in 2023, Constitution Hill in the Champion Hurdle. That was it. But Constitution Hill obviously is a short price. Again, this year, John Bond, Lulambe, obviously in the Triumph Hurdle. Then you've got even Mr. Coffey, Jericho de Repanet, lucky place in the Stairs Hurdle. He's got a good chance. He's got two big chances in the Martin Pipe Hurdle if they both go there. So he's got a very, very strong team going. Dan Skelton, likewise, like he had 4 winners last year. He only had 6 winners at Cheltenham before last year, and he nearly equaled his overall tally. So he had a brilliant year last year. And we know how good the Dan Skelton horses are in handicaps. You need to have a second look at all of them, and as well as the handicappers, he's got the New Lion and Low de Sud as well. Protectorate going for the Ryanair Chase again. Take no chances. She has a chance in the Mares Hurdle. So yeah, he's got a very strong team. As you said, Paul Nicholls maybe not as strong this year as we've expected in the past. He is one winner last year, brought his total up to 49. So you can't underestimate him. But yeah, just maybe not as team probably this year is not as strong as it usually is.
No, indeed. I say I haven't actually got involved in this market at all, but I thought, having kind of gone through it late doors, I thought Gavin Cromwell was quite interesting, actually, when you actually look at how many horses he's got. And he's got a lot of solid each way chances in loads of handicaps. He's well stocked, perhaps more than I realised. And then you've got the likes of Hello Neighbour, Only by Night as well, Stumptown, obviously, in the cross country, Total Look. I started going through them. I was like, he's got a lot. Well, he did say officially his biggest ever string coming over. I think there was an interview with Gavin where he was joking. He was asked how many horses is he bringing over, and he said, 7 or 8. I think is someone in the background from his stable shouted 26. So yeah, I think even he's not quite cottoned on to the strength and depth of his yard. And of course, Gavin Cromwell has had a very healthy strike rate at Cheltenham over the last 2 or 3 years. Right, that pretty much concludes the specials markets. Now on to more stuff we can kind of quantify in a bit more detail, and that will be the Cheltenham Gold Cup itself, a race which for quite a long time now has revolved around Galopin Des Champs, and rightfully so, because he's looking to kind of go into horse racing immortality, isn't he, here, Don, to join Best Mate and Arkle as only the 3rd horse since the war to have won 3 consecutive Gold Cups. And yes, he is magnificent, but it is also simultaneously, in my view, just a little bit disappointing. There isn't really a great deal to take him on, and that's not me trying to kind of put a downer on the race. We could be ending up with a 6 or 7 runner affair here, and if the rains do continue, our King George winner Banbridge might not make the gig either. So Galopin Des Champs. I mean, where do you kind of rate him in the pecking order? Does he need this 3rd Gold Cup for kind of confirmation purposes in the pecking order here, Don? Or, is he an all-time great as things stand, win, lose or draw coming into this?
I think it definitely, like it goes without saying, it enhances his reputation. It enhances his legacy as well. If he goes and wins another one, Ed, like as you said there, it'll put him in a very he's already in a fairly elite club, having won 2 Gold Cups, but to win a
3,
third, like that's Cottage Rake, Arkle, best mate. That's it since Golden Miller won his 5th back in 1936. So like, and in a sense, you'd love to see it really because he kind of deserves it. I suppose when he got beaten in the John Durkan Chase on his debut this season, that was the point at which you thought, and even last year, the staying novice chasers last year, they looked like a very good bunch. And then when Factifile and Spillans Tower led home, they were 1-2 in the John Durkan Chase in the very, it seems like an awful long time ago now, the John Durkan Chase back in November. But back then you're thinking, Galopin Des Champs, he's going to be 9 now, going for another Gold Cup. And again, the difficulty of the task in winning 3 Gold Cups.
Drifted to 4-1.
Yeah, was he 4-1? Was he that big? Yeah.
Yeah.
So look, and then you were thinking maybe this is the changing of the era. This is Factifile is going to progress again. Spillans Tower is going to progress again. They're both potential Gold Cup horses. I know the way you're thinking in there as well. Corbett's Cross, they were all the horses that were coming. Monty Star, horses coming from last season, and then Galopin Des Champs went to Leopardstown and was so good there at Christmas, and then went back there for the Dublin Racing Festival. And he's now getting the accolades that he deserves. And we've spoken about this before, Ed. The reception that he got at Leopardstown, both at Christmas, but I think more so at the Dublin Racing Festival, it was brilliant. He's brilliant for racing. He kind of, when you see people packing, I counted them 14 or 15 deep at Leopardstown Winners Enclosure just to see him coming back in and give him a round of applause. It's brilliant, and for him to do that for racing and bring racing, attract more people into racing, and you need these kind of superstars to do that. But he's doing it, and he's done it. And then to go and win another Gold Cup, that would bring him to another level again. So it would be brilliant to see him doing it. We know how good he is at Leopardstown. He's unbeaten over fences at Leopardstown. He would be unbeaten over fences at Cheltenham as well, had he not come down when he was clearing the Turners Chase as a novice. And he's a Martin Pipe Hurdle winner as well. So he's a monster, and from a racing fan's perspective, you just love to see him going and winning another one.
Yeah, absolutely concurred on 3 Gold Cups. It's going to be magic. It's just a race to savour, isn't it? And a horse to savour. So these horses, well, history will tell you, they don't come along that often. And just finally on Galopin Des Champs, and on a format perspective, is there anything we're overlooking in regards to, does it need an act of God here to get him turned over, or something silly happening? Is there, say it didn't rain for 10 days and the ground is rattling quick, for example, is there a crazy scenario by which you think there is a potential one thing we've overlooked, or is it a case with a clear round, 22 fences, job done?
I think Monty Star is interesting. I think he's an improving horse. He's only had 6 runs over fences. He'll be better for the greater test of stamina that Cheltenham will present. And I think Banbridge is an underrated horse. Again, we've been here before. I think he can probably give Galopin Des Champs a real race. Like he's got so much in his favour. As you said, he's the King George winner. And we didn't know before the King George if he could stay 3 miles. He did stay 3 miles. He had to go and see it out. Like the sectionals tell us that he stayed, that Ile Francais was not stopping in front, and he had to go and pick him up, and he did. He saw at the final 4 furlongs really strongly. Another 2.5 furlongs in a Gold Cup. We're not sure if he's going to get that, but his dam's a half sister to Major Malarkey, who was a 4-miler. So there's every chance he will. And the way he finished off the King George, you wouldn't have said at the end of that race that 3 miles was his absolute limit. So I think there's a chance he'll get it. We know he goes well at Cheltenham. He's a Martin Pipe Hurdle winner. He's an Arkle trial winner at Cheltenham. His only disappointing run there was in the Ryanair Chase last year when it was soft, and that's key. And he may not even run if the ground is soft, so that's obviously a worry. But if the ground comes up good to soft, and no worse than that, then I think he's going to. There's every chance Banbridge will put it up to Galopin Des Champs, and let's say Galopin Des Champs is going to have to put up a big performance again in order to beat him, I'd say.
Yeah, indeed. It's a very, we say it in most races, don't we? It is very ground dependent Gold Cup, but even more so this year. I think if we got a proper winter ground Gold Cup, which we've had on what 3 of the last 5 occasions, it really does leave the door massively ajar for Galopin Des Champs. As you say, if we got spring ground, it does bring others into it. Now, you mentioned Monty Starr. He's the one I'm quite interested in here. Clearly, being trained with one day in mind, the run at Tremor was nothing more than to get rid of the ring rust, wasn't it? And then I thought there were shoots of encouragement last time out at the DRF. He's got to take a step forward again, but as you say, extra distance should help. And Henry de Bromhead, interestingly, suggesting better ground would help too. Yeah, he definitely looks a major player, more for the fact he's got totally untapped potential in this field, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like he's 8. He's only a year younger than Galopin Des Champs, but he's only had 6 runs over fences, and like he was a high class staying hurdler, high class novice chaser last season. He finished second behind Factory File in the Brand Advisory Chase. I think that was just his 3rd run over fences, and then ran Spillans Tower to 3 parts of a length at Punchestown. So he's a coming horse, as you say. Henry de Bromhead, like he said all year, he's training him to be at his peak for the Gold Cup. That's the way his campaign is going. He didn't start off until New Year's Day, as you said, at Tremor. So yeah, like it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to go and by how much he's going to step forward from his run the last day at Leopardstown. Of course, he needs to step forward, but he's got the profile to suggest that he will. And back at Cheltenham, and the longer trip, he's a real staying horse. That should suit him as well.
Corbett's Cross, Grange Clare West. Can you make a case for them hitting the frame at big odds?
Yeah, I think Corbett's Cross probably needs to jump a bit better than he's been jumping. But and as we discussed, I think yesterday, when a horse is not jumping as fluently as he can or as he could, that it's a negative in one sense. He's not a great jumper, but then especially for a fairly lightly raced horse, there's that potential to improve if he can introduce more fluency to his jumping. And of course, there's no doubt in Corbett's Cross's engine. He's got some engine, but he's probably going to have to jump a wee bit more slickly if he's going to be involved in a Gold Cup or if he's going to trouble Galopin Des Champs. And Grange Clare West, he stayed on well the last day to take second place behind Galopin Des Champs. But again, I just think he's going to have to improve a fair bit on that in order to be involved. And he maybe doesn't have the same scope for progression as some of his rivals in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Which outside of that leaves perhaps the real whacker who on all known form looks up against it. L'Homme Pressé, of course, who arrives here after being pulled up in Ascot, same race Corbett's Cross was in. I think Corbett's Cross would be interesting, especially if we did get a lot of rain at the end of the week and it just slowed them up a little bit. It was very deep ground on the opening day last year, admittedly. National Hunt Chase last year wasn't a deep event. There are only 4 or 5 runners, but he fairly sluiced in on that occasion. As you say, on dry ground, it was all just happening too quick for him at Ascot, and his jumping fell apart, and that's almost a case in point, isn't it, for Corbett's Cross? And then that leads us to Factor File, of course, who we've covered on a previous show. Will he or won't he? The market suggesting Ryanair is the most likely destination at the moment, but if he were to line up, still stamina doubts still will linger, won't they, coming into it, Don?
Yeah, like he's, he tried something. They tried something different the last day in the Irish Gold Cup, having finished second behind Galopin Des Champs in the Savills Chase, and he still couldn't beat him. It's just hard to see how he's going to beat him. Look, he was good last year in winning the Brand Advisory Chase, and we're both making a case why Monty Starr could go well. He beat Monty Starr, and he beat him on merit last year in the Brand Advisory Chase. And when he won the John Durkin Chase on his first run this season, he looked like he was going to be a real player in the top staying chases, and he has been. But just if Galopin Des Champs shows up in the form that he was in either of his 2 Leopardstown runs this season or in either of his 2 Gold Cups, then it's just, for me, it's hard to see how he's going to beat him. And therefore the Ryanair Chase, he'd be favoured for the Ryanair Chase if he goes there, and that might be where he'll end up.
Yeah, indeed. On balance, probably looks the logical move from the events we've seen this season. Right, for a bit of fun then, Dom. We don't know the ground, we don't know who's running, but come on, this is going on social media, so it'd be boring if we duck out this one. I want your 1, 2, 3 for the Cheltenham Gold Cup now in 12 days, 11 days time.
Right, 1, 2, 3. In in an always trifecta, Galopin Des Champs, Banbridge, and Monty Star.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I'm going to go Galopin Des Champs, Monty Star, Corbett's Cross to be ridden cold and mop up the pieces, shall we say, up the home straight. Kind of Annabelle Fly-esque from a few seasons ago. That'd be the way I'd describe it. But yeah, wonderful. No, that was pretty thorough. It will be amazing, won't it? Galopin Des Champs can make it 3 Cheltenham Gold Cup wins on the spin. He goes into the Hall of Fame if he's not already in the Hall of Fame. Right, the final part of today's show, a bit of familiarity to this. We've been covering each day's handicaps so far with Don. We've done days 1 and 2. We're on to the Thursday now, day 3 of the Cheltenham Festival for handicaps. Potential best bets, horses you've got in your notepad. We've got the Jack Richards, haven't we? The old Turner's juicing, if you like, back to the novice handicap there. We've got the Pertemps final. We've got the plate. We've got the Kim Muir. It's probably the hardest day, isn't it, in terms of huge field, trying to pick the winners. Who have you had your eye on here, Don?
Yeah, tough day, the Thursday. It normally is. I find the Thursday is always a tough day. Maybe it's you're after having 2 days of it and you're just knocking your head against the wall some more. I like Answer to Cape as a horse, Terence O'Brien's horse. He ran a massive race in the Martin Pipe Hurdle last season. He finished 4th behind Better Days Ahead and Waterford Whispers and Kay de Bourbon. And the 4 of them finished well clear. That was a very strong Martin Pipe Hurdle, as the Martin Pipe Hurdle often is. And then he's had his 3 runs over fences. His last run was very good at Naas when he stayed on strongly. He came 12 lengths clear of Canal End. That was a big performance. He's a horse who probably 2.5 miles is probably just at the lower end of ideal for him. But if it did come up soft, and I think that would be key over the trip, especially if it came up soft, then he'd be interesting. He's got a hurdles mark of 138. His Irish mark is 142. He's got a British mark now of 145, so only £3 higher, which is fine. And back at Cheltenham, where he's proven, especially if the ground came up soft, then that could bring his stamina into it over 2.5 miles. And the other horse I'm really interested in is Midnight Hour Fred. I know he's been popular and he's been well touted in the Kim Muir on I think it's the last race on the Thursday. He's just a really nice horse of John Flavin's. He was progressive last season. On his debut this season, he won over 2.5 miles at Gorham Park when there was lots of things were against him. He was going the wrong way around. He does jump to his left, so going right-handed wasn't ideal for him. 2.5 miles was on the sharp side for him. And he was passed early on, but he came back and stayed on really well. He won impressively. He's been to Cheltenham 3 times. He's finished 2nd on all 3 occasions. So we know that he goes well at the track. He ran really well in that amateur riders race at the October meeting. So last season, so going back, he's got an Irish mark of 131. He's been given a British mark of 132, which is more than fair. And just as we were saying earlier on, Cletus Pula is £6 higher than in Britain than he is in Ireland. So if Cletus Pula runs here, Midnight Hour Fred will meet him on £5 better terms than he would do if the race was run at Leopardstown or at Fairyhead, which is kind of a bit of an anomaly. But it does mean that Midnight Hour Fred, I think, is more than fairly treated on 132. John Flavin's very, very good trainer. And it'll be interesting to see if he does go to the Kim Muir, who rides him. Darren McGill rode him at Cheltenham last year in that amateur riders race, and he's a very good amateur rider. He's a brother of Oran. They're both good amateur riders. He claims 7 here. I think he can claim 7 there as well. And if he were to ride him, I think he'd be an asset. He's well worth a £7 claim. He's a good rider. Midnight Hour Fred, he's only run 8 times over fences. He can improve again. And that the Paddy Parrott Chase, in which he finished 2nd last time, that's a race that's been working out really well. Percival de Galba, who won it, he came out and won a listed handicap hurdle next time. The 4th horse was Nick Rocket, who he went and won the Thyestes and then won the Bobby Joe. He's now rated £11 higher than he was then. Midnight Hour Fred ran off 128 there. He's only £4 higher. His British mark is only £4 higher than his Irish mark was then. So and John Flavin, he does have him in the National Hunt Chase as well. But I think he said that the Kim Muir is favouring that because this trip, 3.25 miles, seems to be more favourable to him than the longer trip. So look, he's been well backed in recent days, but I think he's a big player in the Kimure.
Yeah, fascinating stuff, this one. I was looking at the Jack Richards as well, Don, just to pick up on that. Answer to Cafe, 8-1. Midnight Alfred in the other race, of course, at 7-1. But Answer to Cafe, yeah, very lightly raced 9-year-old with just a 3 chase start. So unusual profile coming into a novice's handicap. But as you say, soft ground on the new course, thoroughly unexposed for a horse of his age.
Yeah, exactly. Really likable horse. He was progressive last year as a hurdler. That was probably a career best performance that he put up in the Martin Pipe Hurdle at Cheltenham, which is key. And that was heavy ground that day. And when he won at Naas the last day, put up a really impressive performance in that novice handicap chase. It was soft ground that day. So I think soft ground is important to him. So maybe hold fire on him until we find out what the ground is going to be like. But he's a really nice horse. Terence O'Brien trains down in Cork, does really well with his horses as well. So yeah, he'll have a big following as well. Answer to Cafe going over to Cheltenham.
Wonderful. Yeah, keep your eyes on Answer to Cafe at around 8-1. My couple of what they're worth on the Thursday. I'm in the green and gold of JP McManus. Like, I have no idea if this horse is going to run. I don't even think the trainer does, or at least he's not letting it on. And that would be Johnny Who has got an entry in the Kimure. He's got entries in the Ultima. I mean, he's got more options than me at an all-you-can-eat buffet, to be honest with you. He could go here, there, or anywhere. But Johnny Who was kind of rubbing shoulders with graded horses. Yeah, ran in the Albert Bartlett last year. Been in behind some pretty useful types. I just wondered, in typical fashion, which handicap he's been plotted up for. And if he does, off 140, I thought he's got to be making a splash. I suppose it's going to be chess pieces with Jaguar and Cribilli and a few others of that ilk in terms of where they all slot in. But yeah, Johnny Who, if he runs. But one horse who should be running on the Thursday, his price has been tumbling in the last few days. But I do like, funnily enough, the per temp's final favourite here, Jericho du Repine, off 135. If you rewind the clock about a year or so ago, he was kind of a 5-6 to 1 poke for the Supreme Novices, wasn't he? There were big things expected from him. He didn't perform well at all. He was pulled up in that race under the kind of malaise of the Seven Barrow stable. Now I thought he ran the Eyecatcher, the Cheltenham Eyecatchers of all Eyecatchers, when smuggled into third to qualify for the per temps final at Exeter 3 weeks or so ago. He's got 135. He's thoroughly unexposed over 3 miles. Nicky Henderson's been saying for ages he thinks he is a stayer in the making. I just think off that type of mark, he does bring the could be anything factor to proceedings within context. Yes, he's light on experience, but by the same token, I think he's a pretty slick jumper. That shouldn't be an issue. And I'd be surprised if he's in full working order if he's not better than 135. Very briefly, Don, you had a quick look at the per temps, or was that one you'll sort out on the morning?
Yeah, don't worry, I'll sort it out in the morning. No, I absolutely see where you're coming from with Jericho de Repine. It'll be interesting to see where the wall park goes. If he goes here instead of the stairs hurdle, that would change the shape of the race a little bit for me. Yeah, but he could be a big player in the stairs hurdle as well, the wall park. But no, the pretense final, yeah, that's one of the more tricky handicaps I find.
Absolutely. I thought I'd keep it straightforward. Yeah, I have to change my social media handle to favourite_Ted by getting involved in the favourite in the per temps final. But yeah, it's been wonderful, Don. Thank you very much for your input as ever. We will be back next week for our final show in the build-up to Cheltenham for the Eyecatchers series. We'll be looking at the handicaps on day 4 and coming up with some ever special topics to round off proceedings as all the action at Presbury Park gathers ever nearer. My thanks to you for watching at home. My thanks, of course, to Don for his valuable input each week. Don't forget to follow irishracing.com for all the latest news, views and features. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.